Hello, so in this video I'm going to talk through my 3 golden rules for A-level history exam technique, specifically essays and my experiences with Edexcel A-level history, but I'm sure these will be really helpful no matter what exam board you are working towards. So the reason I'm making this video is that a little while back I made this video where I gave 3 tips that I'd gained from marking the A-level history exams, and this video is kind of an extension of that one, but hopefully I'm going to be able to explain it in a little bit more detail. So if you haven't seen that video, I will link that in the description so you can have a look at that one afterwards. So the first golden rule, and it's very, very obvious, but it does need to be said, is to link back to the question. So link back to the key terms of the question, and then at least at the end of every paragraph, you link back to the factor in the question, if it's a factors question, so you're kind of consistently engaging with what the question is asking you. Okay, so if we have a look at this example from the civil rights paper in 2017, and the question is, how accurate is it to say that it was primarily internal divisions within the civil rights movement that damaged the cause of civil rights for Black Americans in the years 1960 to 68? So paragraph 1 is obviously about internal divisions, and then you could have paragraph 2 maybe about the government being a kind of obstacle to further advancement. Paragraph 3 could be Vietnam. There are obviously other options that you could do. This is just a kind of suggestion. So what I'm getting at is in every paragraph, obviously you're engaging with the extent to which these things damage the cause of civil rights. That's the first way we're linking back to the question. But the more advanced way is at the end of paragraph 2, you should be comparing government to divisions. At the end of paragraph 3, you should be comparing Vietnam to divisions. So consistently linking back to the factor in the question, that's what you need to do to get to the top level. Okay, the next golden rule is that you must always explain why. So you must always say why your argument is the case. So don't just say, overall, X was the most important. Say why X was the most important. So this ensures your argument has a basis, which is what criteria is. If the why is your criteria, so if you say it's most important because it had the most long-term and widespread impact, that is your criteria. That's the criteria for your argument, criteria for judgment. And the why also gives you a substantiated judgment. That's what that means in the mark scheme, explaining why. When you get to the other factors or other issues you're talking about that are not as important as your argument, say why. Why are they not as important? It might be they're not as widespread, they're not as long-term, or it could be they had a limited impact across the entire period. Maybe they were only impactful for a short part of the period in question. Something like that. So always, always, always say why. So here's an example. Again, it's from a civil rights paper in 2020. And the question is, Malcolm X was the most significant film in changing perceptions of race among movie audiences in the years 1900 to 2009. How far do you agree? So to get the coverage, you could approach the question in this way. So you talk about Malcolm X, which was 1992. Then you can talk about Birth of a Nation, 1915, and In the Heat of the Night could be paragraph 3, 1967. So if you're going to argue that it's not Malcolm X in terms of changing perceptions of race among movie audiences, it's Birth of a Nation, say why. Why is Birth of a Nation more important than Malcolm X? What about In the Heat of the Night? How important is that compared to Malcolm X? And always come back to this idea of why, really fully justifying your explanation in your argument. Okay, so the final golden rule is coming up. And that is, golden rule number 3 is to make the examiner's job as easy as possible. So what you don't want to do, and this is something I mentioned in the earlier video, is you don't want the examiner to be sifting through your answer, trying to find your judgment, trying to find the basis for your argument, trying to find the specific examples, trying to find your criteria. Signpost it, make it clear. So, for example, with evidence, use dates, use specific evidence, don't talk generally, and it's signpost to the examiner, this is precise evidence, this person is really engaging with the question. The second point here is linking back to the question makes the examiner's job as easy as possible. It shows that you are engaging with the question consistently. And the third point here, explain why your argument is the case. Again, it shows that you've got a basis for your argument and sets out your criteria and allows you to reach a substantiated judgment. So they're the 3 golden rules. Golden rule 1, link back to the question. Golden rule 2, always explain why. Golden rule 3, make the examiner's job as easy as possible. I hope that's been helpful. If you've got any questions on technique or anything related to this video, please leave a comment and I'll try my best to answer it and help out. Thank you.